presentation I put together, it is specifically to just to introduce how nature can be your ally while you're going through life transitions. You know, life is just really a continuous series of transitions.
Mhm.
And you may not have thought about that before, but some of them are huge and they're really life altering shifts, like could be starting a new career or maybe retiring, moving to a whole new place, a death in the family, or a child leaving home. So that's really big. But there's also the smaller everyday shifts, and we're always navigating these. And it just might be a new project that you're taking on. Maybe it's for your house, or maybe it's for your work. So these are things that just happen on a daily basis. And these moments can feel really exciting or full of potential, but they can also bring a lot of stress and uncertainty and maybe even a kind of grief for what we're leaving behind. Definitely, there's a sense of loss that's often there. So that's something we don't consider as well, is that, just taking a moment to honor that sense of loss as we move into something else, a transition. So I wanted to talk a bit about how to navigate these and give you some strategies to help you navigate transitions. Nature. I mean, nature's ability to guide us is what's really fascinating. And I think, there's many things that point to this from the science. This isn't something esoteric. This is actually, we're wired to be connected to nature.
Oh,
And for me, this is really fascinating. So I'm going to pull out some insights from different concepts around nature. I'm not going to say nature therapy, around nature, like biophilic design, ecotherapy, which is growing fast. Forest bathing could be considered a part of ecotherapy. And it's not just about nature feeling nice. The scientific evidence is really suggesting that it's actually a fundamental biological connection. So it's not a preference. Healing and resilience, when we need it most, can really come from reconnecting with nature, with its rhythms, and it's wired deep inside of us. And we don't learn this in school. It's
mhm.
one of those other things we don't learn in school. So, understanding how nature can help us and why it works specifically during stressful time when life it feels a bit chaotic. This connection towards nature, where does it actually come from, right? Because sometimes you do feel it. You do feel it when you go for a walk, or you do feel it when you're just sitting outside as opposed to sitting indoors. And this isn't a cultural thing or a trend. Part of it is it's part of our being and our stories. And a concept that really captures that is biophilia. And if you haven't heard that term, it was first used by a psychoanalyst named Eric Fromm. And he described it as the passionate love of life and of all that's alive. Basically, our emotional draw towards life. So E.O. Wilson, who's a biologist, he expanded on that. And he really defined it as our innate tendency to focus on life and lifelike processes. So it's built in. It's seen as this deep psychological, emotional connection, and it's rooted in our evolutionary history. So think about, for example, we evolved in nature for almost all of human history. Our survival literally depended on understanding and interacting with the natural world, right? So, this idea is we carry this tendency and we're wired and prepared to connect with nature. It's kind of our default setting. So, for example, when you step outside, maybe into a park or just look at some trees, You might notice that you feel instantly calmer or more focused. So that's not just in your head, it's literally you returning to your natural state. So it's kind of like putting two puzzle pieces together, nature and us, and we're a part of nature. So once those puzzle pieces are put together, we are part and part of nature. So I like that idea of us fitting together, but it's more than just that feeling of rightness when you plug back in, so to speak. It actually triggers that neurobiological response. It triggers your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest system. So if you're in a sympathetic nervous system response, that's the flight or fight response. It can also be the freeze response. So it really creates that psychological and physiological shift in our bodies. You're recalibrating your internal state towards calm and coherence just by being present in nature. An example here is how nature paradoxically offers both constant change and, for example, in the weather, seasons. So there's also deep stability within that change. Like if you think about this further, like the way, for example, a fern frond slowly unfurls, or the predictable branching pattern of a tree, or the rhythm of waves on a beach. This is constant change, but there's also stability within that change. So it's rhythmic and universal patterns that actually imply growth as well. So growth, renewal, transformation, they aren't random. They follow this inherent order, just like the golden spiral, the Fibonacci principle, Fibonacci sequence. You see this everywhere from galaxies down to seashells. It's that swirl. So when we're facing transitions and we're feeling a bit chaotic, our brains are actually wired to look for patterns of predictability because that's a survival thing. And when we see this complex but ordered natural structures, it gives us this shift in our subconscious and a sense of coherence. So you can see how that really translates, just looking at fractals, for example, which are the ways tree branches come out from the tree trunk. That can actually be one thing that just helps you to calm because of that innate ancient ancient knowing that we have. So thinking about another transition and thinking about letting go, because part of a transition to move into the next stage is letting go. So something really typical, like a tree shedding its leaves in autumn, they let go of the leaves to make way for new growth in the spring. So it's really a powerful metaphor. It's simple, but when you think about it like that, it's also a model for us. It's a model for letting go and constantly embracing change. You have to trust in the natural cycle of renewal, and that really leads to personal growth and a deeper sense of peace. Trust the cycle. It can even shift your perspective on really big things like death. So seeing these not as endpoints as well, but part of a continuous flow, it's really kind of profound. This understanding actually allows us to shift our internal timing as well. So it helps us to replace urgency with seasonal timing. So, for example, there's also we often have a huge pressure to figure everything out now. So during a transition, we're trying to figure things out. We want it done. We want it to happen. I've definitely felt that. But nature teaches us patience and the value of dormant periods, right? So the certainty of new beginnings eventually, even though we don't know when that's going to be. And when we can trust that there's going to be a new beginning after the chaos, and that's when we help ourselves get through these transitions. So it's not just about seeing cycles, it's also internalizing the rhythm of these cycles and modeling how to handle impermanence.